Hey folks, welcome to another video in my Python tutorial series. My name is Ajit and let's quickly jump onto it. In this section, we're going to take a look at simple data types. There is also another category which is called complex data types, but for now, we will take a look at the simple data types. Every program defines or gathers some sort of data within the program, and then we do something useful with it. Hence we need to classify the different types of data, what sort of data we gather. So first very important data type is string. So string is basically just a series of characters. If I have to show you what string is all about, then you could take an example of the hello world program that we wrote earlier. Let's take an example of this particular string. This is a string, it's enclosed in double quotes at this moment, but you could have this similar sort of string, in a single quote as well, so like this. So we can use, whichever way we want. Sometimes, single quotes are better, and in some situations double quotes are better. For example, if I have a sentence where I have to write, for example, something in double quotes, for example, this example, I told my friends, and then this sentence in double quotes, then this will only be executed if you use first sentence and then the initial part in the external part in the single quote and the actual phrase in the double quote. So let's take an example of this. First, let me clear this console and let's run this program. As you can see, it has printed the same way, and this particular quote is in the double quotes appearing. So similarly, you could use single quotes or double quotes, whichever way you would like to use. So that's the beginning of the strings. We're going to work a lot with strings, and then we will see how things are, what all things we could do, because string looks very simple, but it has very complex functions that we need to work with, because you need to manipulate strings in a lot of different ways in order to work with it. So the next thing, the next data type we have is numbers. So number is simply a number. We all know what number is. It's probably the most widely used data types that we're going to work with. So for example, number can be integer, number can be decimal, we call it float here. So number can be float, and Python supports a lot of numbering systems, but you could convert the numbers into hexagon, binary, and so on, and we will take a look at it. So again, number is just number. As we said, we can simply output this with the help of print and number function. We have seen this earlier already. Now let's take a look at some of the important things that we could do while we output the numbers, and you could see the calculations, right? So how Python works with floats. For example, let's define number a as 0.01 and b is equal to 0.02. So these two are variables, and they are floats right now. So let's do a plus b. Okay, the calculation is actually 0.3, but it has provided us with the with a lot of numbers. So this is basically it's called an arbitrary number when you get this sort of output, but yes, many times you will get 0.3 as well. So let's take another example, and let's call a into b and then print the output, and you could see it's again, you have the output here. So that's how the integers and the float behaves. If I have to give another example, a is equal to 4 and b is equal to 2, and let's divide a by 2, and this is, even though you see two integers here, if you divide any integer by an integer, you will always going to get float number, because you don't know whether the output is going to be the full number or the float number. So that's about the float numbers. And you also have the the large numbers. For example, if I want to write 1 million, I could use underscores in the numbers. So yeah, so if I have to print a, it should simply show us this output. So that's how you work with large numbers. With numbers, you're also going to do multiple assignments. So let's say I want to define 3 variables, x, y, and z. So I could do 1, 2, 3, and I can print them separately, or I can print them on a single line. So as you can see, this output of this particular sentence is here. So we only have output of 1. Now let's print y, and you see the output 2. Similarly, let's print z, and you have the output 3. So that's how you work with numbers. So the next data type that we're going to look at is called Boolean. So Boolean is nothing but just true or false, as in when we will start using the conditional statement, where we'll verify conditions in your programs. Then you're going to realize the importance of Boolean data type. So Boolean is nothing but it's either true or it's false, you know. So let's create a new variable and call it a, and just print a, and let's see what's the output. So the output is true. There's one thing that I really missed. I should have told you earlier. That's verifying the data type of the data. You can use type function inside print. Just let's print the type of a and see what it is. And you could see the class is bool. Similarly, you could you see, you know, this message, and it's string. So you could see class is string. We could also verify the type of number, sorry, and it says int. And let's change this number to float, and now print the type of number, and it says float. So number is basically integer or float, right? So that's the Boolean data type. You will also need to verify a lot of conditions, for example, true and false, you know, because if you have multiple conditions to verify, then the you know, so first condition becomes true and the second condition becomes true, then your statement becomes true. But the first becomes true and the second becomes false, then eventually it should return false. And let's see what a returns now. So, and it says false. If you print a now, you could see the output is false. Yeah. So instead of and, let's write or, and then see what happens now. So true or false is true. True or true is true. True and true is true, but true and false is false. So if one condition is true and other one is false, then eventually it becomes false. So this is why the Boolean data type is really important. And the last data type that we're going to take a look at is none. So none is like null. So those who are coming from JavaScript, or those who have studied database, you must have seen null value. I'm going to define a new variable and call it b, and b is simply none. Okay, and now print the type of none. As you can see, its class is none type. So this is a none type database. It's not it's useful in many cases, but not often considered. If you want to keep the value as none, for example, if you're working in with the data science library and you have certain columns with no data, then you could call them none, you know, columns with none value. Or if you're working with a database and you have no values in a specific table, then you can call them none values. So when you process that data in Python, they will be treated as none value instead of null value. Okay, so that's about the simple data types that we have studied so far. So as you know, we studied 4: string, numbers, Boolean, none. We're going to work them a lot in future, so in this series. So string is going to be our next chapter, where we'll try and see how to manipulate string, how to slice string, and so on. So yeah, stay tuned with me and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much.